Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, thank you very much, Michael Libby. 4 minutes after the hour on this 28th day of October in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Tuesday edition of Max World Live with Tom Coates. Of course, Tom in the studio, and we have a very special guest lined up, and that is Doug Gross, former chief of staff of Governor Branstad in his first administration, and just a guy who keeps his nose to the grindstone when it comes to politics.
Yep. Heavy duty, heavyweight local litigator, attorney, one of those big rainmakers you hear about. Ran for governor back in the first term of against Vilsack, coming off of the 2000. He ran a good race, but came up short with a very good politician, Governor Vilsack, which I still speculate we haven't heard the last of yet. But before we get into politics, Mac, and we're eagerly awaiting Doug's arrival, we expect him to walk in any minute, I wanted to give a shout-out to the guys over there at Waters Autoland who you helped direct me to a little over a week ago.
Thad.
Been looking for a vehicle, and Thad was good to deal with. Shot me a good price on a new-to-me car. I never buy new, but it was a good deal on a used
only
car.
like, what, 10,000 miles or something like that?
18,000 miles, 2013. It was an executive car, I guess, driven by one of the GM executives over there in Detroit. So I think a pretty good deal on it, and I'm happy with it. So I thank you for setting that up, and I thank him and his people for making it easy over there.
Yeah, and anytime, Tom does not part with his money easily. So you got to get a good deal. But those guys down at Waters are good guys. I've dealt with them for a long time.
Well, he said that you went way back in your radio career.
Yep. I used to do live remotes there when I was on KJJY with Hatfield and McCoy. And those guys were always they were one of the first guys to give away free brats and free hamburgers to people who came by. Because when you do a live radio remote, nobody really cares about this, but I'll tell you anyway, because maybe you do. When you do a live radio remote, your goal has to be either traffic or sales, and you can't get both. Okay? If it's going to be sales, you'll get a few, and it's based on an immediate price. If it's traffic, it's because you're giving away something for free. Mm-hmm. Concert tickets, hot dogs, balloons for the kids, clowns, whatever they are. And a lot of car dealers never understood that. They thought we could have both. We could get 100 people out today and sell 50 of them cars. And it doesn't work that way. And those boys, Waters, always understood that. So they were one of the first guys that drug out a grill and their little propane tanks and gave stuff away.
Is that a second-generation dealership, Mac?
I think so. I don't know, though, to be honest with you.
Okay.
They're brothers.
Yes.
And I don't know, though. I don't know if their dad, maybe, before that. I don't know.
Okay. I didn't know. They're a little younger than you and I, but not a lot.
A little younger than you and I are dinosaurs. But anyway, good. And so you'd recommend those boys down there?
I would.
Are they Buick?
They got the Buick dealership, and they handle other vehicles, but I think they used to have Pontiacs down there, too.
Pontiac's not made anymore, right?
No. So they're down to Buicks, but they've got a good selection of used cars down there.
You know, that's interesting you should say something, because I saw online the other day that GM is going to introduce in 2015 the all-new Pontiac Firebird. Remember the Firebirds?
Yes.
The Trans Ams.
Trans Am.
With the tops that came off and so What are they going to do? They're just going to make it under the Chevy name? I don't know.
You think it is going to? I don't know. They've got GM. Since GM became Government Motors.
Government Motors.
Who knows?
Obama Motors. All right, and we want to thank you for taking the time to tune in today, whether you're listening to this live or listening to it on a podcast. We know that there are many choices you have at a little after 3 in the afternoon. And if you are live, thanks for taking the time out of your day. And if you're on a podcast, thank you extra special. Because in this day and age, everybody's got a podcast. I mean, I can't imagine any radio program. Well, music radio doesn't have podcasts, but talk radio would always have a podcast. And so there will be about, usually we get somewhere around 27,000 people who will listen to the podcast within about 2 weeks.
That's pretty good.
Not a lot of people, but pretty good.
Well, I don't know how that stacks up, but I think podcast, for me anyway, has become a popular way of listening and watching the shows. Because sometimes you're tied up during the day when the shows are running live.
Now I know you're a big fan of Jan. He's got audio podcasts, but does he have video?
No, they don't have video.
Okay, so when you listen to Simon or Jan, you're listening to.
Yeah, and of course I like being able to go through on a show like that and picking out certain guests and things that would be of interest, and then going back and listening to that.
Yeah, but kind of the DVR of radio.
Mm-hmm.
Record what you want and watch what you want.
Yeah, so I think that's handy. I don't know what percentage of your audience is live versus podcast, but for me, the podcast makes some sense.
Yeah, what was I just going to say? Sorry, I lost it. It was important, too. You said podcast listening. Oh, well, anyway, I'll think of it later.
I don't see any reason why more of them couldn't go to this. I know, for instance, like Rush Limbaugh, he does the cameras and everything.
But he doesn't have just one camera that sits up to his left. Yeah. He doesn't have something like we've got.
And he doesn't have the guests come into his studio.
Oh, that's true.
Like we do either, or like some of the other guys do. Occasionally he'll have somebody, but it's always over the phone. I don't think they come into his studio, so they only need the one camera. The way you can see Rush enjoying a fine cigar, and
is that studio in his home, or does he go somewhere for it?
Well, I think he's got his main studio in Florida, which is where he lives.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I've heard him travel around the country, California, some other places. Especially when he's on a golf tour or something like that, and he'll do a radio show from the local studios. But I think his main studio is in Florida.
And I'll bet it's in his house.
You could be right.
I'd be surprised if he. Why? I mean, he's done well.
Yeah.
He lives well.
But he's got a good sized crew. So if he's doing it out of his house, he's got that crew coming to his house. I'll bet he goes somewhere.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right. Also wanted to share with you that we had a really good guest. Speaking of podcasts, we had a really good guest last Friday. And his name was Pastor Randy Robertson. And he just went to Life Point Church Assemblies of God up in Ames. But this guy has been in Slovakia. Ryan, how did you pronounce that? Slovakia? How do you pronounce that? You might know?
No,
all right. Anyway,
I don't think I want to make a stab at it without seeing it.
He's a missionary in Europe, Greece, Netherlands. That name that I don't pronounce very well. And, boy, he had some interesting stories with him and his wife over there in those foreign countries of being a missionary.
Well, you have some interesting guests. That guy we had from North Korea here a few weeks back was interesting, too. I mean, the fellow that had all those stories about being in prison and being tortured and was spreading the word of God throughout those. Not easy. Not an easy deal to.
His life was always being threatened.
That's right.
Always being threatened. What do you got?
Frank says it's Slovakia.
Slovakia, Frank called it.
Oh.
Told us it was Slovakia.
Thank you, Frank.
Slovakia, yeah. If I looked at the way I spelled it, that would be right. Because Frank was on the show. But good show. So check that out. That's at the podcast, too, at macmccoy.com. Or you can go to webcast1live.com and go to archives and then look up the shows that way. They're all there. We've got hundreds of shows. We had to go to a cloud, which, to me, they're white and puffy in the sky. But we had to go to a place that'll store all of our shows that we've done. So anyway. So you can catch any of the Max Worlds that Tom and I have done over the last couple of years. They're all on there, and you can search for a guest name. So you can look at the last time Doug Gross was on, and the last time Sam Clovis was on, and the last time Joni Oh, no, she was never on. She was on public radio yesterday.
I heard that. Well, I can say we're kind of tap dancing here around, but I don't know if you followed that Joni was supposed to go and do an interview with the Des Moines Register last week.
And the Cedar Rapids Gazette.
Yeah.
And the Waterloo Courier.
Yeah, I heard about those two, and then I read about it in the paper, and they decided to not show. And
Well, they called. I mean, they didn't do a no-show. They called and canceled.
No, they called ahead of time.
Yeah.
But they say, we've decided we're not gonna do those interviews. I initially thought that maybe that wasn't a good idea, but I think they were perhaps right. Because I think what would have happened with the Des Moines Register and some of those people is that they would have laid in wait for her. They would have asked her tough questions, gotten answers one way or another from her, and then when they published the endorsement, which likely was coming for Bruce Braley anyway, they would have published some of the answers to certain questions that would have put her in a bad light.
Yeah, and they would have taken her out of context.
Yeah, if you're carrying anywhere from a 2 to 4 point poll lead, and the numbers are, slightly in your favor, but still within the margin of error, but you've got the edge, you don't have to do something desperate. And at this point, I think perhaps not going to that interview was maybe the best thing. What do you think?
Well, and she also didn't do any conservative radio. She went on Simon, right?
I heard her about a week or so go on Simon for a few minutes.
Okay.
They talked about a particular subject. There was an out-of-state Democrat politician, don't ask me who, some visiting governor or somebody that had made a comment that she was unpatriotic. This is kind of outrageous for somebody in a stumping for Bruce Bailey. to make the charge that Joni Ernst was unpatriotic.
Won't you go home, Bruce Bailey?
So she did call in, and I heard her call. I was there one time when during the state fair, something had happened, and she called in for just a minute to Jan. But she used to be on Simon's show more, but she hasn't been on there much.
Yeah, she didn't need to.
And
it's dangerous for politicians to go live on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to ask the tough questions. That's because that's what we do, and that's what you expect of us. You don't expect us to softball somebody. Now, we don't what we call hit and run, Tom, so we know you think a lot about you're against abortion and you're against gay marriage, but when did you stop beating your wife? Those things, those don't work very well.
Well, back early in the senatorial race, I think I shared with you, maybe I didn't share it with your listeners, but I got a call one afternoon from Joni Ernst, and she wanted to meet to visit and get to know each other, and I agreed to it, and so we met at a local restaurant out west and spent about 90 minutes just having a nice chat.
Yeah.
And she was early in it, and I, at that point, was supporting Matt Whitaker, and I liked Sam Clovis. I liked her, but I thought that the others offered, I guess, from my perspective, something more. But I was wrong. I mean, clearly she was the candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, she's probably the best candidate up there. I would have liked to have seen Brad Zahn, make that, but that's David Young, and I think we've got a good choice there. All right, we're up against first break. We'll take it, and we'll come back. It's Talking Politics, because a week from today, oh, Lord, all the commercials are gone. That's all I care about at this point, right? We'll talk about it right here on The Truth, 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit, we don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
All right, something's come up for our guest, Doug Gross, so he won't be with us today. So Frank's listening, and Frank's going to call in, and we'll have a little conversation about the politics. And I think I'm going to even get Ryan engaged because, you know, Ryan, you're old enough to vote, right? I mean, you're what, 21 now? 22? All right. Have you put your microphone on? This isn't, you know.
I was getting it on.
So you're 22, so you vote. Did you vote 4 years ago then when you were 18?
Yeah, I did.
Did you vote in the presidential?
Wait, no, I voted 2 years ago. I didn't vote in the last presidential because I'm only 20 right now.
Okay. So you, you're 20.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You held up 2, so I thought you meant 22. So you voted in the last presidential.
Yes.
And who'd you vote for?
Constitution Party. I forget his name.
Constitution Party. Okay. And why did you choose to vote for the Constitution Party?
Christian guy. More just that I didn't want to vote for Romney or Obama for moral reasons.
Yeah, it's guys like you that we got stuck with Obama, you realize. I don't want to vote. I don't want to vote for a Mormon.
If you're going to take that path, then you're blaming God.
What?
Then you're blaming God for what happened when really it was God's will what happened. I mean, as long as we follow God's word and how we vote, he will determine, based on our faithfulness.
So you think God wanted Barack Obama as the president?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Even though Obama may not be at all aligned with God's word.
So,
the Bible clearly states that God raises up rulers and takes them down.
Yeah. So you think perhaps this is God's righteous judgment on a nation that's gone astray, Ryan?
Quite possibly. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it could be.
Yep.
He could be right. By the way, Doug Gross apologizes. He had it down as tomorrow on his calendar. I may have misspoke, so it may well be my fault, but in any case, we'll have to get him another day.
Okay, we'll get him another day then.
So we need to get a good guest on for next Tuesday, which is Election Day, Mac.
I've got a couple guys lined up. That's a busy day for political pundits.
I know it is. That's why, but that's also the reason we need to get somebody good on. People will be interested, particularly that day, on what's going on and what's likely to go on.
You know who would be fun to get on next Tuesday?
Who?
You'd have to make this happen, though. It'd be fun to get Jan on. He's done at 11:30, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be fun to get him on to talk about what he thinks going on. And I can't imagine they would mind over there. I don't know. Maybe they would.
Well, we've had Van on, but then that was a little different deal.
Yeah, that's true.
That was to promote an event that he was doing for us in Norwalk. I don't know. We could see. I have communications with Jan from time to time. In fact, he exchanged emails last night, but I don't know. I've never even thought about asking him to come on here.
I think that'd be fun.
Well, it might be.
We were on Radio Row together.
Yes, I remember that.
Yep.
I remember that on the immigration issue.
Yep. And
didn't we get him on then for a little while?
Yeah, he did come on and talk to us. So,
but then that was right handy, and at certain times we had Sean Hannity on the show once. You remember that?
That's right. That's right. We did. That was fun. I'll never forget. We were right next to Hannity, and the only thing that was between us were those what do you call them? Convention cloth booths.
Yeah, there just wasn't much between us, and you were a little loud. I remember we had Charlie Gibson when he was still the anchor for the ABC morning news. You remember that, Charlie Gibson?
Yeah.
And he was complaining that you were too loud, that he was having a hard time hearing in his booth that was across the way. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, I actually had friends of mine tell me they were listening to Hannity and could hear me in the background. But that's not because I was loud. That's because they had poor sound.
I think it's some of both. Your voice carries well, and I think there wasn't much to stop the sound.
That's that is one of the reasons that I very rarely have meetings in restaurants.
Hey, we're starting to see some movement on this on the politics here, Mac. There's some things happening that I was hoping that we could bounce off of Doug, because I have a lot of respect with his polling. I would have liked to have seen what his assessment was. But one of the things that's happening is that we continue to see what in essence is a very ideologically driven and incompetent administration all at the same time deliver on things that continue to hurt them. There are two constituency groups that could be counted on to deliver solid and overwhelming support. And we've heard from both of them in fact, one of them today is starting to show some cracks in his minority bloc. There were 4 black leaders that spoke up just today in Chicago. They're not happy. We're starting to see some cracks in that. At the very least, I don't think you're going to see much of a black turnout this time around. In fact, there are some that are saying we've been betrayed by the Democrat Party. They've taken us for granted. They forced us into a position of servitude in welfare with food stamps and other things. A minimum wage is not an issue because there are no jobs for us. You forced us into a position of servitude, and we're supposed to dutifully go to the polls and vote you back in every time, which some of us have observed that is the status quo, but some of them are finally saying, hey, we'd rather have a decent paying job than your doggone handouts and put us into a form of slavery. The other one's the women's groups, and I think the women's groups are something that they had not counted on. Again, women have tended, ever since they got the vote 100 years ago, tended to vote more for the liberal politician, whether that be a Democrat or who that would be, because women tend to vote with their emotions more. They live more by their emotions. That's just the way they are. Men and women are different. And the women tend to want to vote for the liberal politician. And I'm not being I'm not trying to be insulting to them. That's just the way they are. They want to take care of people. They're more emotional. And the liberal politicians always claiming that they're going to take care of the poor and the downtrodden better than the conservative candidate. The reality, of course, oftentimes is something far different. But this time around, what they've done is they've overstepped on two fronts, the way I see it, Mac. They overstepped, one, on not taking a definitive stance over in the Mideast. We've talked about the Middle East and the terrorists, and then ISIS popped up, and they started chopping off some heads. And they said they said they were coming after us. They started taking over. And this administration was so either politically driven or inept. The jury's still out on this one, whether they really wanted the terrorists to take over the Middle East, Egypt, Libya, Syria, some of these things, or whether they were just so inept. But in any case, I think some of the women started feeling frightened when they saw those things on their news. The other thing is this Ebola thing. And when Ebola started popping up and there was talk that we could see a pandemic in this country, and the latest is out today that the Obama administration is considering bringing in non-U.S. citizens with Ebola into this country so they can be treated. It's that kind of idiocy. They won't, 2/3 of the Americans, people or more, want to see the flights directly from those areas blocked, or anybody with a visa from those areas blocked from coming into this country. And this administration absolutely refuses to do it. They're talking about doing a major amnesty bill that would expand the green cards program and make millions of illegals legal citizens, eventually vote in this country. Those kinds of things have played on the emotional fears of the American women, and that's the other block that is deserting them. I think that's why you're starting to see some of these poll numbers shift. You're starting to see the Republicans gain traction, not because of anything they've done. I think we can argue, Mac, that the vision of the Republican Party has been lacking. They have not effectively, hopefully they will, after November, come out and establish a vision for where they want to take this country. They figured being the non-Democrat, non-Barack Obama party was enough, and it may well be a protest vote, but you've got to turn the protest vote into a vision or they turn you right back out. And I think that's the fear that a lot of us have, is that not that we won't be successful. The minorities stay home, the women start to turn and in protest will vote for the Republican. The race here locally, Stacey Apple, David Young might be one case in point. There were some polls taken back in September that showed Stacey Apple with about a 6-point lead that was published in the paper today. That same poll was taken just recently, and it shows now David Young with a 2-point lead. There was one out, Bruce Bailey's old congressional seat. I don't remember the number right now, but it's over in eastern Iowa. Typically, not as strong as some areas, but typically a Democrat congressional seat. Saw a poll today that showed Blum actually up by 2 points over his opponent. Now, again, the race isn't run. We've got another week to go. But you start to see, I saw a Brown, New Hampshire, who lost the seat to Elizabeth Warren.
Yep.
He had stepped in to fill the vacancy by Ted Kennedy. He'd won that. Then he lost it to Elizabeth Warren, who, if anything, is a mentor to Barack Obama and as far left an ideologue as he is. She was the one that Hillary got in trouble the other day for saying corporations don't create jobs. Well, she said that at an event that actually Elizabeth Warren was at that same event. And Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama at both times have said, you didn't build that. Corporations don't create jobs. And so Hillary was following along the same track because some of their constituencies want to hear that kind of thing, and you got to throw them some red meat. Well, now she's trying to walk it back and saying she was misquoted and taken out of context and so on and so forth, because it doesn't appeal very logically to most of Americans. But I think when you're looking at that situation, you're seeing at least the opportunity for the Republicans to make some significant inroads. I want to see them take over the Senate. get a few more seats in the House, some seats that may surprise some people that you would have assumed would be Democrat will flip over and go for the Republican if what we're seeing, the trend continues for another week. But then they've got to do something with it, Mac. They can't just say, okay, we won, now we're going to be Democrat light, and we're going to make a few minor adjustments. They've got to be bold. They've got to be contrasting with the crud that we've seen from Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. I think we've got to lay out the vision, and when Barack Obama tries to do something like, bringing in millions or even tens of millions of illegals under some bogus amnesty plan, they've got to step up on that. They've got to do everything they can. They've got to have some hearings. They've got to expose things like the IRS and Benghazi, and they've got to lay out a vision, a constructive vision then also for the American people to let them see the Republicans in charge, this is what you're going to get. I think it's got to be that. It's got to be the new contract with America. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. And the other thing that I worry about is there's nothing that either the House or the Senate is going to be able to do about Barack Obama's desire to flood the country with illegal immigrants. I mean, I think that's going to happen no matter what.
Well, if we grant amnesty in any kind of form to anywhere from 10 to 15 million illegals that are here right now, it's only going to set the stage for more to stream across that border. The carrot is on the end of the stick. You come across and you get it, and we get the least educated, the least employable, and we're going to have a permanent Democrat majority in this country.
All right, we're going to take our next break. What do you think? We'd love to hear your voice. 244-0077 right here on The Truth, 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do. What type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 3:38, 22 before the top of the hour. And that's when Salem Radio Network News will come in and give us the top of the top and tell us what the top stories are in a Christian biblical worldview. And then, of course, Pastor Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church will have his show, True Blue. A lot of news going on here, but Tom, I don't think you heard. Did you hear the big breaking news over the weekend?
Which big breaking news are we talking about?
Well,
Matt?
yeah, Ebola has been taking the headlines,
Yes.
but it's bigger than that. And of course, ISIS, continues to kill people and threaten, but it's bigger than that. Honey Boo Boo got canceled.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me. Now, and I did hear, in fact, I was sitting in the lunchroom day at the office, Consumer Credit, and a couple of the gals were talking about this, and they said that this is not the chapter and wherever they are for Mensa. The mother apparently isn't any brainchild.
No.
And they said that apparently she was dating a guy that was convicted of some kind of sex crime or something.
Yep, sexual child abuse, and he was abusing her daughter.
Honey Boo Boo?
No, not Honey Boo Boo.
Not Honey, not
Honey
the
Boo
golden
Boo,
child.
She'd kick her butt. But, but an older sister.
An older sister.
Yeah, so sad.
Well, these reality shows, Mac, are something that I don't care much for. I suppose, people do watch them, and obviously they have an audience. And
well, it's People Magazine on TV.
Yeah, but you've got a potpourri of characters, some of them good. I mean, I like the Duck Dynasty characters. I like to listen to them, and I think, so some of them are good.
Yeah.
Some of them not so good. And I think when you're talking about what a lot of people might describe as pretty much white trash, there's a lot of fleas to go along with that dog.
Do you ever watch any of the real estate shows from L.A., New York, or Miami? Those are really good.
Are they?
I like them at least.
Do you like maybe I'm speaking out of turn for you, Mac. I don't watch reality TV. Do you watch much of it?
No. I watched the one that I just said, the real estate shows. I can't even remember what they're called. And I watch Duck Dynasty a little bit, but otherwise, no. And you know what else I don't watch anymore? I don't watch much Inside Edition and Entertainment Tonight. I used to always watch those.
Well, my wife does, and I'm forced to at times. But
forced? You're not forced. All right, our guest didn't show up today, and so we appreciate you being patient with us. But we've got Frank on the line, and Frank's always thinking about what's going on in politics. Frank, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Are you sad that Honey Boo Boo is canceled?
I don't know. You talked about reality. Tom talked about reality programs. There seems to be a certain curse that follows those guys around. Everybody that starts one of those ends up in divorce court or some tragedy in their life. I'm not sure exactly what that's all about.
Well, they haven't been trained. They haven't been educated. They haven't gone through the proper procedure to be a television star.
Well, I think of the one that the Gosses, the little Oriental guy that had all the multiple kids, the sextuplets or whatever with the wife, and that just turned out to be a total disaster. They ended up in divorce. And
oh yeah.
By the way, Frank, it's Asian. Oriental is rugs and food.
We had a lesson on that one time after your show, Mac, didn't we?
We did.
It was not off the air by a minute, but a little gal came by and got in my face.
Yep.
And let me know in no uncertain terms that she was not a rug.
Yes. That's okay. I don't mind that.
Tom, I got a real concern, and I don't know what your feeling is on it, but I have no faith in our voting ballot integrity. And I think of three elections in particular. I think of Al Franken up in Minnesota.
Right, where they let all the felons vote.
Rossi twice out in Washington, once against Christine Gregoire for governor, in which he got beat, I think, by 144 votes, and come to find out, 144 convicted felons voted in a particular precinct.
Yeah.
And they just kept counting these votes and counting them and counting them and counting them and finding new boxes in storerooms, and they was just insisting on counting votes until they get the winner they want. And, and then, of course, he ran against Patty Murray, and he got the El Shafto out there against Patty Murray. So,
well, Frank,
I'm just really wondering out loud, and what's your thoughts?
Well, I think in a close vote, and you pointed out a couple good ones to use as illustrations. I mean, some people might call you paranoid, but it's only paranoia if there's no legitimate threat. And in a close race, I think chicanery can be afoot. The Democrats are masters at it. We've said for many years, vote early and often in Chicago, and how many people in the graveyard are still signed up voting for the Democrats over there. Is there a reason, Frank, that George Soros has put millions of dollars into campaigns to try to elect secretaries of state in this country?
He's the good billionaire, apparently.
Well, yeah.
Bad billionaire.
Yes, I know. He's one of the good guys. As a teenager, he was he turned his own people. He's Jew. He turned his own people in working with the Nazi SS, and said those were some great days of his life when he could. In essence, when he could turn some of the Jews in hiding into work camp people. So this is the kind of guy and he's ruined countries with his currency manipulation. Here the Koch brothers are one of the most philanthropic guys that you can find.
And transparent.
People like Soros, now let's come back to the point. Soros has put millions of dollars into special interest money that tries to get secretaries of state elected around this country. If you did not who could care less about Secretary of State's race unless you were trying to pull a fast one on the people in that area? And the Secretary of State is the gatekeeper. Now, Matt Schultz, you've seen how he's been pilloried in our press. The Des Moines Register has beaten him up time and time again. I don't know. I suspect Paul Pate gets elected. He seems to be the same kind of a fellow that would like to keep the people that shouldn't be voting out of the voting booths in this state. But the Democrats have a strategy, and part of that strategy we talked about earlier, Frank. You heard us talk about the Obama agenda to go ahead and do some kind of a mass amnesty to try to bring illegals in and allow them to vote.
Well,
I don't think George
ordered a whole batch of green cards.
Yep. That was in the RFP.
According to news reports.
Yep, according to the news reports, that's in the RFP. So tell me, Frank, if George Soros doesn't have chicanery in mind, why would he put millions of dollars into Secretary of State's races around this country?
Because, Tom, I've argued with Bradshaw on this. This voter ID stuff is just a layer of protection. It's like a layer of protection at your home. If you got a fence, you get past your fence. You got to get past your guard dog. Get past your guard dog, then you got to get past your alarm system. You get past your alarm system, then you got to get past the 357 in your night bureau. The thing of it is, it's just a layer, and it's not going to stop everything. But a couple hundred votes in a really tight election like the ones you're mentioning, generally that doesn't happen in a presidential election, but in these smaller elections like you're talking about, 10, 15, 20 votes can make the difference.
Well,
and that's why George Soros is pouring the money in those things. It is chicanery. But let me tell you about two other little quick instances.
Well, now hold it. You said that you were on the other side of an issue with Bradshaw?
Oh, yeah, gosh.
Well, my goodness.
The three of us are in good company, aren't we?
Bradshaw, back in the old days, was always kind of if I wasn't decided on a subject and I'd ask Bradshaw how he felt on it, that was my weather vane right there, Frank.
Bradshaw, was always my weather vane. Whatever Ted was for, I was obviously against.
The opinions of the voice, Frank, and Tom Coates are not necessarily those of the radio station, the program, the host, the producer, etc. All right, you guys hang on. We're going to take our next break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation about the elections and what's happening and what's in store for you. And I hope you're voting. If you can't make it next Tuesday, get yourself an absentee ballot and make sure you vote, because we need one thing to come out: the truth, on the Truth Network 99.3. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Get away from my Sumito credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com.
Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com today.
All right, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network news at the top of the hour. And then we have Pastor Michael Mudloff with Westkirk. Frank's on the phone. Tom's in the studio. I want to go back and ask you something. Did you say that the government has ordered the printing of green cards?
That's what we'd heard. I mean, that's what Frank referred to. That's what I'd heard, that they'd put out an RFP, request for proposal, to do some green card printing that would extend green cards to, again, Frank, we hear anywhere from 10 to 15 million. 11 to 12 is
Sure.
frequently a number thrown out there. But let's say it's even on that 11 million number of illegals in this country. My point is that it's just like what they're doing with Central America. If you allow them the pathway, there's going to be a whole lot more following. And it's like with Reagan. When Reagan did the amnesty in conjunction with the Democrats, he did it with some promises that were never held up.
Right.
They wanted a fence built. They wanted tighter security. They wanted some controls. Democrats, in fact, he later said it was one of the biggest mistakes of his presidency was to trust the Democrats to uphold their part of that. But they pardoned about 3 million, and that was supposed to be it back there in the early 80s. And it sure hasn't proven to be that way. If we do it again, we can be looking at 20, 30, 40 million in a few years coming streaming into this country.
Well, Tom, I'll tell you, if those immigrants coming across the border were turning out to be Republican voters by about 70%, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Kennedy would be down there with M16s patrolling the border tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, this is a political issue. But here's the real worrisome issue to me. If this Ebola outbreak, it's probably not going to happen in this particular country, but what about these South America and Mexico if there should be a flood of Ebola down there, they are going to mass exodus across our border seeking medical attention.
Yeah.
And that's going to flood it into our country. So not only with Obama wanting to legalize somewhere in the vicinity of 8 to 11 million, right to work, alien,
right, illegals,
permanent residents is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Right to work. Then you're going to get this flood of people coming across seeking medical attention if the Ebola thing outbreaks down in Mexico. So we're it's a powder keg waiting for a match.
Well, it is. And now we're seeing individual state governors take the matters into their own hands. They're saying the federal government with their new Ebola czar, who has he's disappeared on us now, but he has no medical background. He's a political hack. He's been the political hitman. He took the lead under the he was pushing for the Gore. He led the Gore challenge to the election back under the first Bush team. He's headed up political campaigns and such, and that's all they're really worried about. They want the political spin right on the Ebola.
Well, and then anybody that says anything about a quarantine has been and will be blasted with the charge of racism, and that's how the media in Hollywood has been running interference for Obama for 6 years, and I can't believe that they would be willing to torpedo this country for political interest of Obama to have a Senate and to have somebody that can carry through his agenda, that they would take this country down willingly because we have to quarantine. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this thing at the airport, Frank, is ridiculous because they admit that they may not show any signs for an extended period of time. The guy that came in from Dallas would have passed this temperature thing that they're doing. The idea that they're just going to be allowed... 2/3 of the American people want those flights stopped. Now, the governors like Christie and some of the others, there's another one today that stepped up. Those people are actually, they can operate fine and say, we're going to quarantine because they know they've got the vast majority of the American people behind them. A lot of people are saying, what can be Obama's strategy this late in the election game to try not to take legitimate, logical steps to deal with Ebola?
Charles Krauthammer the other night says the guy is such a narcissist that under normal circumstances he would be hiding under his desk, but he can't help himself but from getting out there and torpedoing his own efforts because every time he opens his mouth, the Democrats who are in these red states that Romney won cringe. Absolutely, their faces wrinkle up and cringe when he says things like, you're voting for my agenda. These people will support me.
Right, exactly right. And some of them won't even admit to voting for him. Mary Landrieu, when asked at a debate the other day down in Louisiana, would not say that she would support Harry Reid for the majority leader.
And the gal in Kentucky.
Yeah, was she the one that wouldn't admit to voting for Obama?
Say who she voted for.
Yeah.
That's a ringing endorsement.
It really is. There's not many places Obama thinks he can go to, and he went to that one in Chicago last week, thought he was on safe territory, and he got heckled, and much of the crowd walked out on him. That should tell you something, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it tells me that there's even a number of black people in the black community, because I've been seeing some reports on the internet that they're turning against him.
Yep.
Not the base and the voter bloc.
Well, these were four street guys in Chicago that were supposedly local leaders that came out and blasted the Democrats just today. Look at the story up today. And now these are the cracks that I mentioned to Mac earlier. He's disenfranchising many of his they came out, over 90% of the blacks voted for Obama the last time, and they came out in big numbers. My prediction, and I feel very good about it, is that they will still primarily vote for the Democrat, but they won't come out in any great numbers, and many of the women will switch over in a protest vote. That's the other block that he's losing here, and actually vote for the Republican. So I think you're going to see a wave election coming up here a week from today.
Well, one quick thing here, Tom. They said that Obama has forced a lot of people out of bonds. He's forced them into the stock market, and the only people that's making money is the top 1 or 2%. And he had this war against the 1 or 2%, and now he's more of a friend to the 1 or 2% than any president probably in history.
Crony capitalism at its worst. I'm afraid you're right there, Frank.
All right, Frank, thanks for calling in today and filling in for our guest. We appreciate it. We'll see you Friday when our guest will be evangelist John Stewart. Tom, thanks for being here today. And before we go, we talk a lot about politics, especially on the Tuesday show. We try not to talk about it any other time. And so many of us Christians, we get stuck on polarizing topics, abortion or gay marriage. And let me tell you something. Those two issues are fodder. Are they important? Absolutely. But if you're going to vote, don't vote based on a single topic. There's a lot more to every candidate out there than those two subjects. And you have to remember that the other side, they're not loyal at all. Because if they were loyal, a Catholic would never vote for a Democrat, right? But they do all the time. So think about who God wants you to vote for and who he wants as a leader who will do the best job overall, and that's how you vote. All right, we'll see you tomorrow live here on the Truth Network 99.3.